Under Section 34B of the 1942 Broadcasting Act, the ABC must provide fair and equal airtime to both sides of the political spectrum. Therefore, in accordance with a High Court directive, triplej is compelled to broadcast a show presented by conservative youth. So would you please welcome young Liberal Stirling Addison, LLB, MA, BA, English Lit Hons, and young National Tom Thomlinson, Year 10, Pass Ag Science, as they finally bring an unbiased political voice to the ABC and attempt to restore the balance.
You may resume your seats. This is Restoring the Balance. Good evening and welcome to the broadcast. We also welcome to this particular broadcast the Global Chairman and CEO of Ernst & Young, Mr. James S. Turley, presiding Bishop of the Reformed Episcopal Church, and the Most Reverend Leonard W. Riches, and the coadjutor of the Mid-American Diocese, Mr. Ray Sutton. Hosting tonight's broadcast is myself, Stirling Addison, LLB Hons, and my partner in the coalition to free the ABC airwaves from the slavery of the left, Mr. Tom Thomlinson.
G'day, Stirling. Nothing like blowing the froth of a few coldies and sitting down doing the show. A lot of good feedback from the boys at the Goat Council last week who were listening. So
yes.
It's amazing that we've made it to a second show, mate.
Yes. Let the imprimatur of the Goat Council be our mark of quality.
Exactly,
if
mate.
You will,
exactly.
if you
They're
will.
good
Yes.
guys up there.
Yes.
In West Wimmera.
Yes. Now, on today's broadcast, Rebel MP, Mr. Bob Catter, former
National
colleague
Party
of yours.
I know. Look, it's very disappointing. I'm going to bring that up with Bob. He stabbed us in the back a little bit, but he's got some okay policies. So, look, I reckon
He's supporting the coalition.
Yes, he is. I reckon we can turn him.
Yes. We will also be speaking to relationship expert Yvonne Allen, and we will discuss what is on for conservative youth that's been heretofore never heard on triplej.
Exactly, Sterling.
They've been excluded.
Yeah, nothing for regional people in triplej. They've never done anything for regional
They
Australia.
don't care because they don't live in the inner city and they don't vote Green. Therefore, in the eyes of triplej management, they simply don't exist. Also, we will cover off the London riots, we'll discover who's really funding the Greens, and we will play more paid advertisements on your ABC. Also, we'd like to take this opportunity to point out that today is the birthday of Cuban madman Fidel Castro. We wish him a very speedy decline.
I'm surprised it's not a national holiday here at the ABC,
Yes.
Sterling. I mean, people are often draped in those, what are the T-shirts that they wear, the
Yes.
Che Guevara
Yes.
numbers. I'm surprised it's not a national holiday. And just before we kick the show off, Sterling, let me say I'm surprised that we're not being forcibly gay married.
Yes.
Did you see Bert and Ernie this week? Facebook pages, the ABC here saying these, should be Bert and his longtime male companion Ernie getting married.
ABC policy is they're supporting same-sex marriage, of course. You would notice that B1, the bananas in pyjamas, if you look closely at any ABC TV guide, now the name of the show has been changed to B1 Hearts B2.
Really?
At long last. At long last.
I'm surprised it's not gay, bi and curious, George.
Yes.
Sterling.
Yes.
Soon we're going to have Bill and Ben the flower pot men. We know what sort of flower they're going to be, don't we?
Yes.
Say it. What?
Yes.
Pansies.
Pansies, yes.
What's Dory going to be exploring when she grows up, mate? Certainly not different lands.
No. Certainly, probably the nether regions of her girlfriend.
Disgraceful, mate. Disgraceful.
Well, that is a disgrace that we will put an end to. We are supporters of different sex marriage on this show, perhaps the most heretical position to take. More of that is ahead this evening on Restoring the Balance.
Restoring the Balance.
We are of the right, we have the right, we are right.
This is Restoring the Balance, 2 hours of conservative talk with myself, Tom Thomlinson, Young National, and Stirling Addison, Young Liberal. Look, that was pretty shit-house, but I'm going to play some actual music later on in the show, Stirlo. Some music I reckon this network could be playing. And we're also going to talk to Bob Catter.
Yes.
Bit of a traitor to the National Party, but he's had a big day at the Mount Isa Rodeo, so we're going to catch up with him.
He's not become a quisling of the crossbench, as have the other independents. He has thrown his weight and his moral authority behind the coalition.
Yeah.
He is always welcome on this program. Like you, Tom, I would have looked askance at happenings in the United Kingdom. There was anarchy in the UK, to borrow a phrase that's been much overused this week. Victims aplenty, Scoundrels, and the guilty parties have readily been identified. We will add to that chorus and point the finger of blame for the UK riots at years of progressive and trendy leftist policing tactics of the constabulary. It left them paralysed. And this happened. This has been documented, Tom. Before tackling any of the rioters and thugs bent on wanton destruction, the police had to await the arrival of a Druid priest so they could be blessed in their mission by the original owners of the land. This has been documented in the United Kingdom.
It is. It's disgraceful, Stirling, what I saw on the TV, on the television.
Yes.
You know, I've done a couple of Kentucky tours of London, so I like to think I understand the place pretty well, and it's really deteriorated.
Yes.
You know, and can I say, and it's
Labour.
not trendy here, but I supported the vigilante groups, coming out. I mean, I've done a lot of skirmish training in Mount Gambier in my time, and I reckon if I saw that happening in our community, if that happened in regional Australia,
yes,
the farmers would get together and we'd shut it down ourselves. And people are saying vigilantes aren't helping, mate. Well, the cops didn't help,
yes.
And I deplore public violence unless it's on a pub crawl.
Yes,
It was disgraceful.
We did see the rousing side of those who asserted their right to defend private property, and that will give any Conservative cause for joy. It is a pity, however, that more of these thugs and rioters were not taken in hand by mobs bent on street justice and dealt with properly.
Exactly. I mean, we're being too soft on them, and they'll get a slap on the wrist.
Yes.
And they'll be back into their public housing, getting their dole checks.
Yes.
And they'll do it again, Sterlo. Do it again, mate.
I ask all Triple J listeners, and no doubt you've been asking yourself this very same question through the course of the week: how could the youth of the United Kingdom be unhappy, as in the last 2 months they have seen not one, but 2 royal weddings? Great unifiers of a nation.
And Pippa Middleton's ass. That's enough to keep you going.
I perhaps would have concentrated on the first, the marriage of Prince William to the commoner Kate Middleton. The second, perhaps less heralded but no less important, that marriage of the Queen's granddaughter Zara Phillips to English rugby player Mike Tindall. Now, I would say this to you, Tom, that if the riots had occurred immediately before these weddings, and the underclass were seen breaking into shops and liberating TVs and shoes as wedding gifts for their social superiors, those actions could have been excused.
That's right.
It's all in the timing.
Restoring the Balance Re-Education Tutorial number 22, the two-speed economy.
The term two-speed economy refers to the contrasting rates of growth between the mining and non-mining sectors of the Australian economy. All Australians should be made to recognise the genius of the mining industry in being able to dig something out of the ground, put it into a ship, and sell it to a customer so cashed up they have the luxury of not having to worry excessively about price.
Restoring the balance.
How have you supported the American alliance today?
The music scenario rock schizo dancer, which seems to encapsulate the Triple J lack of sensitivity towards any mental illness. Of course, mental illness at the ABC is classed as anyone who doesn't vote Green.
Really? Yeah, no.
Well, somebody who doesn't vote Green is Bob Catter. He votes Australian Party. He's head of the Australian Party. He'll tell us more about that shortly.
Speaking of Greens, Sterling, it's no secret they'll take money from anyone. Drug dealers, dictators, maximum security, people who drown puppies probably.
Yes, where did the green come from when you mentioned drugs? Green.
Exactly.
The Green Party.
Well, finally one's been outed, Sterling. Interesting story this week about one of their biggest supporters, union thug, Dean Mighell. 2 words that go together well, isn't it, mate? Union and thug, often used.
Inseparable.
A guy who's bragged about assaulting employers, been on tape. Yes. Labor didn't want him, and you got to be scraping the barrel when Labor don't want you, mate. So
they didn't make him Prime Minister?
Well, he gave $500,000 to the Greens. Okay, the normal deal, brown paper bags, non-sequential notes, dye bond removed.
Recyclable
Exactly.
paper,
Probably
no
stolen
doubt.
from old age homes.
Yes.
He's given $500,000 to the Greens. And, it turns out this bloke does have one redeeming quality. He likes to pig. He likes to go pigging. He likes to hunt boars. He's a member of the Shooting Sporters Association.
Yes.
And he said, I subscribe to that magazine, obviously, and he said this week that pig shooting is a favourite. However, I could stalk deer all day in the high country and not just take a shot and just enjoy the environment and the freedom of the country we live in.
Yes.
He owns several guns as well.
Good.
He went on to say in this article, it frustrates me no end to see hunters portrayed as anti-environment. So the Greens are going to have to give the money back because it's not consistent with their values.
Well, who here is protecting the environment? Is it the Greens or is it the hunters?
We wouldn't have animals to kill, mate, if there wasn't an environment. Hunters do more for the environment than anyone else.
Yes.
We want to see animals procreate. We want to see them in the environment. We want to see them in the wild. How else are we going to get out a Remington 12 gauge and a Nikon 12-inch scope and shoot them if there's no environment? As you know, Stirling, I'm a long-time subscriber to Bacon Busters magazine, which is a great hog hunting publication out of the Northern Territory, and I know I got you a subscription for Christmas this year, which I'm sure you've...
They have much of the pristine wilderness remained unmolested.
Yes, Bacon Busters, famous for its babes and boar section, where bikini-clad women pose next to pig carcasses, which is a very famous section worldwide, one I enjoy every week. And as you know, Stirling, I've got a few trophy grunters on the wall, a place out there in Longreach. And I say to Bob Brown, if you're serious about the environment, come out with me, do a bit of porky stalking. You know, fantastic stuff. You get to the environment, you get some pigging gun, and you really get out of your wine bars in Hobart and meet real Australia.
I would contend vociferously that Bob Brown knows only too well about porkies. He being in the business of trotting them out on a daily basis.
Well done, Stirling. Well done. Excellent stuff.
Now,
Bacon Busters magazine, a big shout out to all the guys there in the babes and balls.
Yes, and good luck putting out the next eagerly anticipated issue of that, which is spirited from the headquarters straight to the National Library of Congress, where it was preserved. It will be preserved for future generations. Should they ever wish to see how feral animals were hunted for sport in the early part of this century. I will announce now with great joy as a Conservative that advertising now exists on the ABC.
Revenue neutral show, Stirling. We don't get paid to do this.
This is a carbon positive show. It is revenue neutral.
Let's have a listen to a couple of ads.
Footloose and fancy free in Port Lincoln on a Saturday night? Then why not check out Breeze's Nightclub, the premier night spot of the Southeast Air Peninsula. Come along to our special Shove Your Face Saturdays, where we count down all of Joe Dolce's smash hits. And on long weekends, you can't afford to miss Man Boob Mondays. The bigger the boob, lads, the bigger the Bundy. There's also Tuna Toss Tuesdays and our world-famous Centrelink Sundays, where your doll form could win you a year's supply of goon. Breeze's Nightclub, keeping up Port Lincoln's birth rate since 1981.
We all agree that healthcare in Australia has its problems. Even in so-called exclusive private hospitals, we still run the danger of sharing a ward with a cashed-up bogan who's somehow made a fortune in the mining industry.
I see you've noticed my Holden Racing Team jacket.
Well, relax, because relief is at hand. Taking advantage of the high Australian dollar, you can now seek treatment of your malady from renowned Swiss physician Hermann Kleiger. After flying first class to Zurich, you'll spend 10 days in the professor's secluded sanatorium, convalescing amongst the unicultural delights of rural Switzerland. The professor and his staff are trained to treat all manner of upper middle class ailments, from mild ennui to ongoing status anxiety. Beds are available for as little as $3,000 per night, and to those with a properly structured family trust are fully funded by Medicare. Professor Kleiger's Swiss Sanatorium, where the well-heeled are well-heeled.
Yes.
Ad break, Stirling. And just a shout out to all the boys at Breezes there. I was there for the Tunarama Festival this year, the Tuna Toss, and Miss Tunarama did a great little dance floor number there at Breezes nightclub in Lincoln. Good guys.
Yes.
Restoring the balance.
We stand for fairness, free trade, and the Australian anthem.
Restoring the balance, 2 hours of conservative talk with myself, young National Tom Thomlinson, and young Liberal Stirling Addison. That was Washington there with Holy Moses.
Yes, a reference to the Old Testament. I thought that was outlawed on the ABC. I thought you had to embrace the earth god Gaia. But on the plus side, a nod to our alliance partner, Washington.
I don't know if it's Washington.
And the great US President George Washington.
Exactly, Sterling. And just let me say, Bobcat is coming up. And also, our mailbag. We've asked you to get on our Facebook or Twitter this week and send in some cues, and we're going to try and tackle those a bit later on the show.
Yes, all ABC union employees will be given 3 days off beginning tomorrow to celebrate the pregnancy of Penny Wong's partner. Penny Wong, the Minister for Climate Change.
Exactly. Some people will do anything to get the baby burners, won't they, Sterling?
Yes.
I like to think of it this way. It's two Wongs and it ain't right.
Yes, well, will the Wong make a white?
Exactly.
Is the question some are cynically asking. But her partner is carrying the baby. It's not allowed these days for one to be cynical about these things. So one at gunpoint must be delighted for Penny Wong and her partner. Apparently they run a law firm together. Partner Sophie Alouache.
Is that a
French,
name?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're having a baby. So Penny Wong has, in one stroke, or however many it took the donor father, she has increased her carbon footprint immeasurably. I thought she was against that. She's bringing a child into the world.
How much carbon dioxide is that little, blighter going to blow out?
That's a good question. Penny, I say, if you're so alarmed by the future of the planet, why would you bring a child into it?
Very true, and it's good to see Niley, get out and speak up,
Yes.
About how unnatural this is. I like to call him Right Said Fred, because
Yes.
he does shoot from the hip, Niley, and it's good to see that. I'm sure though, with the background of this baby, Sterling, the fetus has already been offered a job at the ABC.
Yes.
There's an Asian there, there's lesbianism. I mean, it just ticks all the boxes, doesn't it, mate?
Well said, and congratulations on the fetus's new job hosting Q&A.
Oh.
Yes. Now, I know with interest on this as well, Tom, commentator after commentator saying that one of the main causes of the London riots were fatherless children, and yet here is Penny bringing one into the world again.
Disgraceful.
Well, it's certainly got me shaking my head. And as a conservative, as a devout Anglican, I must say this is against all the laws of nature. What is occurring here? Against all the laws of nature. What am I talking about specifically? A poor, innocent child being raised by a member of the ALP.
Restoring the Balance Re-Education Tutorial number 93, Australia's Irish Ancestry.
Australia can lay claim to a proud Irish ancestry, with nearly a third of Australians claiming some familial connection with the Emerald Isle. Today we celebrate this Irish heritage through lax licensing laws, which affords us the spectacle of drunken urination, fornication and sundry abominations to occur every St Patrick's Day. CCTV footage of sex acts performed on this day are sent immediately to the Pope and 7 hand-picked nuns.
Restoring the balance.
Proudly using non-union labour.
Yes, it is Restoring the Balance with myself, Tom Thomlinson, and Stirling Addison. Well, a man who's enjoying a day of team roping, steer wrestling, ladies barrel racing, some Opel saddle bronc. He's at the Mount Isa Rodeo, and he's formed a new party this week. The Australian Party joins us now on the line. It is Mr. Bob Catter. Good evening, Bob. How are you going? Now, Bob, let me ask you, you formed a new party this week, the Australian Party. Mate, any chance of going back to the Nationals? I mean, you've had a long history with them, Bob. You share a lot of the same views. Any chance of going back?
Who are they?
The Nationals.
Ah, yes, I remember.
What's your beef with the Nationals, Bob?
Well, we had 2,000 jobs in the Kennedy electorate in fishing. They don't no longer exist. Thank you, Mr. National Party, for closing down our fishing industry. We had 2,500 jobs in tobacco growing, nothing to do with smoking. We still smoke, but we don't smoke foreign tobacco now. Oh, thank you, Mr. Nationals. 2,500 jobs gone. In the sugar industry, they deregulated us, then took our tariffs away. Smash, smash, smash. So now we're closing a sugar mill every year. We've got 500 people out of work in Babinda this year, and another 500 with another mill that's closed. About 1,500 people out of work in all in that industry. Thank you, Mr. National Party. Mr. ALP, I don't want to leave the ALP out.
Yes.
I participated in that one.
The guilty party.
Dairying was the worst of all, and yes, the gun was loaded by the ALP,
yes,
but it was also loaded by the National Party. It was also loaded by the industry leadership, but the trigger was pulled by the National Party. So, I mean, the next trigger that'll be pulled will be on them
yes.
in March next year or whenever they have the state
Yes,
election.
when an electorate takes aim and fires. Now, Bob, if we can just put your agrarian socialist ravings to one side for a second, I need to ask why you go by the moniker of Bob when, as a Conservative, you should be recalling yourself the name Robert, as in Robert Menzies, Robert Hill, Robert Doyle. Bob recalls the vulgarity of Bob Hawke, Bob Brown, Bob Hogg, the partner of that one-termer Maxine McHugh. Why Bob and why not Robert?
Well, I went to a school and they used to call you after your father's name, whether you liked it or whether you didn't. And the big boys used to bash we little blokes up. So you copped Bob, well, that was the end of it. So whilst I was young, I was Robbie. But when I grew up, I became Bob.
Yes,
I sort of agree with you. So I think I would be a much more august and impressive presence if I was Robert.
Yes.
Hey, Robert, we'll call you Robert then. Apparently you hate horses, Bob. How did you go at the Mount Isa rodeo?
No, they hate me. They picked on me all of my life.
And how'd you go? Was it
throwing me and kicked me?
How'd you go at the rodeo then, Bob? I mean,
No. I was watching my friends, and they did woefully badly. The heel and the heels, the head and the stand. Ropes were going everywhere except on the beast.
Yes.
Now, Bob, just on other things, can I ask, there's a push for Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street to have a gay marriage. Certain sections of the ABC promoted that this week. Where do you stand on that?
This is sacrilege.
Yes.
Bert and Ernie.
Yes.
Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street. We had Noni Hazelhurst on Q&A spouting ALP policy. I mean, is there a problem with kids' TV? Is it too left-wing?
Sexual relations, Bert and Ernie. They're healthy people.
Well,
I find it difficult to accept that. Truly, I do.
Yes.
This would be traumatic for me if I thought that Bertie and Ernie were going down that pathway.
Yes. Well, perhaps Gillard should weigh in. She knows what it's like to be a puppet. Yes. Well said. Well said.
Bob, finally...
Robert,
finally, can I ask, the carbon tax, how unpopular is it in Queensland? They're talking about, no Labor MP being elected. Is that what you see as the future for the next election?
Well, seriously, I'm getting the same feelings as I got with Whitlam, and they were reduced to one seat in Queensland for the ALP in Whitlam, and I don't know, no one seems to have forgiven them for knifing Rudd in the back, the Mexicans south of the border either. But really, I think unless they did something very, very dramatic, then I think you're looking at a Whitlam-type landslide. If we had gone to the polls late that year, the Jockey Peterson government, if we'd gone to the polls late that year instead of early, the ALP would have had no seats in the state parliament at all.
Yes. Well, Robert Caddo, MP and leader of the Australian Party, we thank you for joining us. In the Gillard Green government's day of reckoning, you will be fondly remembered as one who did not become a quisling of the crossbench. You held true and firm and helped the Conservatives in their direst hour of need. And we thank you.
No. This is 20 points. If it's gone the other way, it would have gone the other way. I must emphasise that point. God bless all the listeners.
Okay, thank you, Bob, very much for joining us.
Thank you, Robert Catter, MP.
Restoring the balance.
We resent this waste of government money.
You're with Stirling Addison and Tom Thomlinson. That song is called Pull Out My Insides. The artist, Does It Offend You? Yeah. Well, the traditional nuclear family, that offends everyone at Triple J.
Yes, Stirling. 2 hours of conservative talk on Triple J. Probably offends a lot of listeners. We don't care, though, because we're speaking for the majority. Now, let me just say, speaking of offensive, the Four Corners documentary with the live cattle thing stirred up a hornet's nest.
Yes.
Look, as you know, I'm more of a pack to your afters, funny, same video guys. I don't watch Four Corners, but
50 years of lies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they haven't got a great reputation for documentaries. Let's face it, Stirling. But Senator Chris Black told the Rural Transport Senate Committee this week, a committee that I follow very closely, that the cameraman and driver who filmed the supposed mistreatment of the animals slung the Indonesian abattoir worker $17. Told it to give it a rough time.
Yes.
So the whole thing basically is fictional.
Cash for comments.
It is. I mean, basically, so it really just exposes the motives of the animal liberationists. It's not to save animals, it's to kick farmers in the gut, Stirling.
Yes.
I mean, they don't care. Take two, take three, another kick, another $17. There we go. Yeah. Get your camera angles right. Haven't got the lighting, another $17.
Yeah.
It is.
Animal Australia. Of course. Do they only care about our Australian animals?
Probably.
What about animals from other parts of the world?
I've always thought that the whole documentary, because I went and rewatched it, Stirling, looked dodgy. And I wouldn't be surprised, all right, if the whole documentary was shot in a studio in inner city Sydney somewhere.
Funded by the taxpayer.
Fake moon landing style. We all know that your Lermans, your Weirs, you got your Breresfords. Yeah. I mean, they're all greens.
Yes.
Let's face it, they'd pull it together. They'd make the studio, get a few actors from Central Casting together. They'd probably CGI'd in the bloody cows.
Fat metaphorically and physically from sucking from the public teat. And yes, whine about the lack of arts funding under the great John Howard.
Exactly.
It did not diminish at all.
Quite happy to kick it to the farmers.
Yes.
You look at that Four Corners documentary, Stirling, as I have. I've gone back and watched it. The shadows don't match up.
Yes.
All right. There's a breeze coming from all different directions. There's all sorts of continuity errors. The Indonesian workers, you got your Gucci watches. They're wearing hair product.
Yes.
They look like they're straight out of Fitzroy, Brunswick Street. The whole thing just doesn't bloody add up.
I'll say this to you: Four Corners, but one distorted leftist point of view.
Exactly. And now they're going to Turkish abattoirs. All right. They're going to the French Riviera. They're filming all sorts of documentaries. Yes. And let me leave you with this. All this privacy stuff is coming up, Stirling. Does anyone consider the cow's right of privacy when they're being slaughtered? Did they consent to this being filmed? Look into that.
Restoring the balance.
Let the free market decide.
With myself, young national Tom Thomlinson, and young liberal Stirling Addison. That was British India, Stirling.
Yes.
You would have,
they were happy days.
And that song was called March into the Ocean. Now, we here have a segment called Right Now.
What's in the mailbag?
Now, you can contact us. A lot of offensive comments about conservative talk last week from Triple J listeners, probably stoned.
We stood firm. We stood firm. We bore them with remarkable forbearance and yet still turned up to work.
But we do have a Facebook page. You can go to, and a web page, obviously. You can go to triplej.net.au/restoring_the_balance.
Now, we will point out that it has been made as difficult as possible
to access
by the goons and the union thugs of the ABC IT department to access our Facebook page. You will prevail because you are right and you will try harder.
Yes, the good people in the IT industry have screwed us over. You can also go to Restoring the Balance Facebook page, leave a comment, or also Stirling Addison, at Stirling Addison is your Twitter, Stirling.
Yes.
And I'm at Tom Thomlinson, which is TH. Omlinson. You can also tweet us as well. But we got quite a few comments, Sterlo, this week, and a lot to tackle. First one was from Joel. Yes. He's written, give us your opinion on the benefits of a constitutional monarchy and the role the Queen plays in the life of an average Aussie, Stirling.
Yes. Well, as this obviously must be fielded by me as the resident monarchist on the show. The role of the Queen, she does everything by doing nothing. She provides stability as the figurehead of the government. She is, of course, the Queen of Australia. So she allows this stable democracy, such as it is under the Green Gillard tyranny, to function at a safe level of stability. I will honour the Queen, however, and perhaps illustrate her role in our lives by affectionately corrupting Shakespeare's sonnet 116. When I say, let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment, the Queen is not a queen who alters when she alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, she is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. Yes,
she is the star. A lot of that.
Well, what I'm saying is the Queen equals love. She is unmovable, and she governs from a distance, but her royal arms envelop us daily in the cuddle that only a mother can know.
I have to say, Stirling, I saw a picture of the Queen in the 50s,
yes.
And my mate Tomo said she was a bit of a quilf. Almost, she wasn't too bad. But I know the good women at the CWA, really look up to the Queen, and I think that
they look up physically because that is the only place in Australia where you will still find a portrait of the Queen adorning the walls.
Exactly, and I think that we all felt her annus horribilis deep down.
Referring to her terrible year.
Exactly,
because Latin for year being annus. Yes.
Also, I got another question from Rob Harrington, Stirling,
yes,
who's asked us to comment on Bob Brown's ego.
Well, this demented lunatic who is building around himself a cult of personality, not unlike those of Reverend Jim Jones or Che Guevara or any demented lunatic with messianic delusions.
I wouldn't be surprised, Stirling, if he screams out his own name during the act of physical intimacy. Well, that's the sort of bloke I reckon he is. He's the kind of guy with pictures of himself plastered all over the room, his bedroom, Silence of the Lambs style.
Yes.
If he was assessed by a psychologist, he'd be declared mentally insane.
Well, he already is. We don't need the say-so of a psychological quack to let us know that.
We've also got another question from David M. Stirling. He writes, rate Tony Abbott, benevolent, how do you pronounce that?
Benevolent.
Messiah
from
of
the Latin again, good. Bene, meaning good.
Benevolent, Messiah of the masses, or preeminent scholar and literary genius.
Well, all of the above. All of the above, despite his only character flaw, and that being an automaton of the Pope, who, when the Pope appears on the balcony at St. Peter's and gives the word, there's every chance Abbott may turn around and strangle any Anglican within a 5-foot radius.
That is a worry, but if you think that Gillard is Satan, and a lot of the National Party do, by default that makes Tony Abbott a god.
Well, we could get into a semantic argument on this sort of thing. Now is neither the time nor the place for it. And I say we do not discuss religion on Triple J. People simply have no religion who listen to this. And it is not the place simply because we would be using terms and words with over 3 syllables, and the drug-addled audience of Triple J simply wouldn't understand.
Finally, Sturlo, a question from Shot. It's a Twitter question for us. A question for you guys. George W. Bush, great US president, or the greatest US president?
Well, a great environmentalist. Before leaving office, he had declared the largest marine national park in the world. Surely the Greens should like that.
It was a good bloke, Bushy. He's a sort of guy, Texan guy.
An oilman.
A lot of guy, regional Australia. A sort of bloke who'd blow the froth off a coldie. And you could talk your bacon busters, you could talk your porker stalkers, you could talk hog hunting with him. I'm sure he'd love to, hunting man, good bloke. He didn't kill Osama, but he certainly loosened the lid for Obama, didn't he?
Yes,
really.
Yes. And of course, saw America through its darkest days of 9/11, assisted nobly by John Howard. And we look forward to a revised publication of George Bush's biography where he expands greater than he did on the role played by John Howard during that darkest hour of American democracy.
You can always contact us. Our mailbag segment, as I said, go to our website. It is triplej.net.au/restoring_the_balance. We also have a Facebook page. So we'd like your comments and your questions. More of those for next week.
Restoring the Balance with Stirling and Thomas.
They hate Labor so much, they refuse to to get their girlfriends pregnant.
This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J, 2 hours of conservative talk with myself, young National Tom Thomlinson, and young Liberal Stirling Addison. That was Panow. Solid ground, as I like to think we're on this program, Stirlo. Got a big hour coming up. We've got a relationship expert. I know I've had a few relationship problems. Yes. Yvonne Allen, her name is. Yes. She's going to talk relationships in 2011. We're also going to hear some actual music, country music from me. I don't do a lot of country music on Triple J. Some music that I'd like to see Kingsmill add to the playlist.
It won't happen.
Also, our What's On segment.
Yes, for conservative youth.
Yeah, is also coming up.
Long ignored and derided by the Trotskyists and Marxists who run this place.
Exactly. And so that's a big hour coming up. And also, remember, you can go to our Facebook or Twitter pages if you'd like to leave a comment.
Yes, in a nod to the Greek god Dionysus.
You see him wogs out of work at all?
He's the Greek god of wine. And speaking of relationships, what is the great lubricant of social intercourse in your world, Tom, is wine, is alcohol.
Yeah, well, more rum, mate, but, yes. Had a crack of red, occasionally.
Yes. Well, somebody who's cracked reds almost literally is the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister's wine cellars have just been given a clean-out. Gone are what one wine writer called the very embarrassing tired old whites and dirt-cheap fizz, and left on the shelf are 169 bottles at the Lodge in Canberra and 147 at Kirribilli House in Sydney. All up, the collection is now worth $7,200, and that means the average value of a prime ministerial bottle is about $25. Not a lot when you're entertaining at the top table. Stephen Strawn is the Chief Executive of the Winemakers Federation of Australia.
Yes, he is, and good luck to him. $25 is the average. Let me just say at the top of this, Tom, that I condemn that so little has been spent on the wine. I condemn any plan to spend even more.
Well, I mean, $25. I mean, they're practically drinking goon in there.
Yes.
She's almost got the fruity Lexia out in the cask. I mean,
well, that's okay if one has the Irish Prime Minister visiting, who's thankfully pushed off the plane drunk and doesn't care what he's drinking anyway.
He'd drink the place dry.
Yes.
Hawkeye would have gone through that.
Well, that's right, the dipsomaniacal dictator that he was. This is the thing, and you would notice the glee in the ABC News report when she talked about the whites going. The great self-loathing continues at the ABC. It's not restricted to brands of wine. Whites have gone. They have been expunged from the cellar by that great red herself, Julia Gillard. We need not worry about the reds in the cellar at Kirribilli. We know they're under the bed.
Exactly.
We know they're pulling the strings.
And can I say, all this wine talk, I mean, we know the Chardonnay socialists who frequent the ALP circle.
Yes.
What's wrong with a bit of premix, mate? What's wrong with a sort of premix can of Cougar bourbon?
Yes.
What's wrong with, some Bundy? You know what? Why not? If the president of France, Sarkozy, comes out,
yes,
give him a Forex, give him a Jack Daniels, give him a Bundy, give him some premix, mate. Show him we're real Aussie.
Well, we can't because the Prime Minister will almost embarrassedly bring out some cheap muck at $25 while dispatching Tim off to the BWS to get something.
She's probably serving it through a funnel.
It's probably from some ethnic string puller who controls factions, who's growing his own wine, making his own wine, and in it, as it's corked, you hear the flow of Italian toenails hitting the bottom of the crystal wine glass. And this makes the Prime Minister very happy, no doubt. Very happy indeed. It's a disgrace, and we look forward to the sober Conservatives taking over the government. It will be good for all.
Restoring the balance.
Conservative youth of Australia have made their choice.
Restoring the balance. 2 hours of conservative commentary hosted by myself, Stirling Addison, my co-host, the coalition to take back the airwaves from the Marxist agenda and apparatchiks of the ABC, Tom Thomlinson. We heard then Little Dragon from... the band was Little Dragon, the song Ritual Union, which should at the ABC be called Ritual Union Work Stoppages, because they're part and parcel of working here.
And now it's time for What's Tom listening to this week?
We can't get... who's the music director here, Stello? I know
Kingsmill.
Kingsmill,
privately educated.
We can't get him to play anything.
You would expect more.
Yeah, you would. So this segment is just me pointing out some actual music, because I know Triple J listeners are, Restoring the Balance listeners are suffering through the music to get to our commentary.
Yes.
So, look, here's some music that you can get on your iTunes or you can get on your internets and YouTubes and actually listen to. Some good, decent Australian music, which imparts some good, decent values, not your milkshakes in the yard and not your booty, getting your booty on or whatever these...
Or partying till the break of dawn, which seems de rigueur.
Yeah, hot in here.
And, of any of the protagonists in the song. And they wonder about youth being too apathetic. Well, no wonder, because they wave their hands in the air. And they wave them like they just don't care.
It's time to care.
Which is so often the case. Yes.
Well, look, first song I'm going to play for you is a great bloke, Carter Edwards. He's out of the Central Coast. Good guy. He really speaks to me, and I think he speaks to the majority of Aussies. A little bit of a track. We can't play it in full. Kingsmill is not allowed.
Won't let it.
This is called Advance Australia Fair Income. Let's just listen to the start of it here.
You know, I overheard a young bloke the other day whinging about all the things that are wrong in this country. Well, I couldn't keep my mouth shut for long. I said, mate, I can tell by your accent that you have the privilege to be able to call yourself an Australian. And I can tell by your attitude that you couldn't care less. I just heard you rubbish the greatest country there is to live on this earth. Well, sure, we've got a few problems, but we can vote them out if they don't run the place properly. It's called democracy. You see, there are millions of people all over this world fighting and dying, just trying to get what you've already got. Freedom.
There we go, we can't play. But, we sort of had that sort of music in London still, and there'd be no riots,
It is a stirring and stout defence of our political system that too often goes unheard here at the ABC and indeed throughout many forms of media.
Exactly, and look, a little pinpoint there to a little warning there for Gillard as well about democracy, mate.
Yes.
About, what we can do in the next election.
Yes, we can vote.
Bet she hasn't got that on my top-rated list on her iTunes.
Well, she's too busy ploughing her way through cheap wine.
Exactly, as we've just heard. The Sunny Cowgirls, a good band out of Hamilton there in Western Victoria, good farming people out there, Western Districts people.
The birthplace of Ansett.
Exactly, and Malcolm Fraser.
Yes,
as well.
Trader.
I was at the West Wimmera League there, seeing Harrow.
Yes.
Harrow playing Edenhope there. It was a good game yesterday.
Yes.
Anyway, look, they have a great collection of music, not heard, of course, here on Triple J. First got to know them through their 2005 album, Little Bit Rusty, which is great. They've had some really good singles like Naughty Side, which is really good. Get On It was a great single, and Bags Not Driving, which was also, I think, important single as well. I'm just going to play a little bit. This is from their Dust Will Settle album, a great single, one that the boys and I listened to, especially cranked up at the Bender BNS at Tail and Bend a couple of weeks ago. This is called Grog Monster. Have a listen. Good message there. Let the grog monster off the chain.
An open exhortation to indulge in alcohol.
Well, it speaks to country people, Sterling.
Yes, and runs counter to good public policy on health, obviously.
No ARIA awards for those guys, mate. We've got your lefty, greeny, sort of inner-city types. I don't know what they're banging on about, getting their adulation. But the Sunny Cowgirls, you can see them at Harvey Bay, and they're out playing at the Queen Danning Tavern. Bow Desert, they're doing the rounds of the regional centres, speaking to regional Australia with Grog Monster and Bags Not Driving.
Well, what they need to do, obviously, is take a photo of themselves hugging an old-growth rainforest.
Exactly.
And send that photo into the ABC, where they will be lauded with an album of the month, from which tunes will be taken.
Exactly.
And tracks.
And unearthed.
And cuts.
They'll be unearthed.
Yes.
The only thing I like is unearthed is some copper and zinc and uranium and gold that BHP and Rio Tinto, they're unearthing.
Yes.
They don't get lauded on the ABC or Triple J, do they?
No.
Some shitful band from regional Australia, from Newcastle or something, is singing about putting stuff back into the ground.
Yes.
Unearthed some copper.
Yes.
Triple J.
Restoring the Balance Re-Education Tutorial number 16. Labor electorates.
Labor electorates are parts of Australia that have chosen to elect as their representative a member of the Australian Labor Party. Labor electorates are to be found in areas ridden with prostitution, chroming and acts of public urination. Under no circumstances attempt to drive through a Labor electorate without first paying off the reigning drug lord or pimp.
Restoring the balance.
Because you're never fully dressed without a national flag.
This is Restoring the Balance, 2 hours of conservative talk with myself, young National Tom Thomlinson, and young Liberal Stirling Addison. Coming up very shortly, we're going to speak to Yvonne Allen. She's a relationship expert about the state of relationships. That was Ben Folds with cooler than, what is it? There's always someone cooler than you.
Yes,
it's very true
is.
here at the ABC. Yes. I proudly wear my R.M. Williams and Moleskins in. Everyone's got some sort of ridiculous goatee or trendy T-shirt or ripped jeans, look like drug addicts. Trying to be cool.
Than you. It goes against the message of global warming.
Very
embraced
true.
by all here at the ABC. Global warming not in evidence yesterday as I took my fiancée Penny to see East's favourite rugby union football club in action against Eastwood at Woollahra Oval.
Okay.
It was a
Eastwood.
willing and thrilling battle, Tom.
They're top of the league, aren't they?
Yes.
Eastwood, they're doing pretty well. Played a bit of
only
rugby.
beaten once this year.
Okay.
And sadly not to be by my beloved Easts yesterday. And of course, Penny was treated to what I think was a marvellous day out. And always I take the opportunity to educate her during our what is turning out to be a painfully chaste courtship. It was, of course, as you would know, at the game was at Woollahra Oval in Bellevue Hill, and we turned on to O'Sullivan's Road there near Rose Bay, where once Qantas flying boats took flight to maintain the vital link with Britain.
Okay.
And back then, of course, it cost a year's wage to travel to London. And all Triple J listeners might pause to reflect ruefully the increasing affordability of air travel, it robbing air travel of its once great mystique and exclusivity.
Yeah,
but I do digress.
Yeah, so tell us about the game, Stella. What was the score, ultimate? You know?
Well, we went down. That's all there is to it. We were soundly beaten on the day by 20-odd points. The score, it ceased halfway through the second half. It ceased being of relevance.
Did you get on the cans? Did you have a few frothies? Did you have a couple of rums? Did you kick back, mate? Did you kick back?
I had wine. The team is sponsored by a great wine company. I went upstairs to the social area. Penny made her excuses and stayed downstairs and mingled with people. I was upstairs enjoying ham sandwiches and a lusty red and urging on the battling foes, as it were, throaty cries, urging the team on that didn't seem to do much good. The excitement was quite intense. It was prevailing amongst the barrackers and yet was no good for East, for the great red, white and blue to get them across the line.
I'd hate to go to the footy with you, mate.
It's not footy. It's
okay.
You can call it footy. I call it rugby. In any event, I did see Penny chatting, smiling and stroking her hair a lot while speaking to a lot of the players of the team at half-time. She seemed to be very friendly on a first-name basis with them.
She's obviously a keen supporter
she professed complete ignorance of the game 2 weeks ago and yet seems to know the team quite well. She threw herself into the spirit of, and this was a very awkward moment, there was a try, one of many by Eastwood, and she could be heard lustily shouting, "Yes, yes, oh God, yes, 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 oh God, yes." The irony, of course, was we were there to support East, and it wasn't one of our tries.
That's best left untouched, Sterlo, I think that one there. But look, we are a revenue-neutral show here on Restoring the Balance. We're proudly bringing paid advertisements to the ABC. My call for the 7:30 report to be broadcast from Bunnings or Office Works to try and stop the government purse funding that bullshit has gone unheeded this week, Sterling.
As yet unheeded,
but
we will prevail.
Nando's got in touch with me and they said they're quite happy for, what's her name, Lee Sales, to be broadcasting next to some peri-peri sauce. She's quite happy if she's willing to endorse Peri Peri, then they're prepared to pay for a week of 7:30 reports. So let's hope that gets up and running.
Well, it is Portuguese chicken. Whether or not the Portuguese have any money to pay for anything is another matter altogether.
Anyway, we do have ads on the show. Here are a couple of them.
Oh, no, not again.
Is this you, tricked by your real estate agent into living in one of those diverse neighbourhoods?
Ah! The f***ing Africans are dancing again.
Next time you're an iron knob, why not check out Mick Squiggins, Australia's only traditional outback barber. Experience hairdressing exactly how it was in the 18th century. So come in, sit back and relax while we soak you with a bucket of bore water, stick a saucepan on your head, pull out the shears and cake on the brill cream. All while you enjoy some billy tea, dingo jerky and a new edition of Goat Breeders Monthly. And for the ladies, we have a special pampering package, which not only includes a shear, but also a delousing, special all-over paraffin wax, and some hot curls done by Macca, the local blacksmith. Mick Squiggins, knit free since 2002.
Restoring the Balance with Stirling and Thomas.
Constitutional Monarchists of the Month.
It's Restoring the Balance with myself, Young National Tom Thomlinson, and Young Liberal Stirling Addison. Apparently, Stirling, that's Triple J's feature album.
Yes.
It's counting...
New depths being plumbed.
It is Counting All Cars by Reptile, which, in my view, is no music to play in front of a lady.
Yes, indeed. And
not that Richard Kingsmill's ever cared about that.
Well, the argument could still be mounted. He is a lady of sorts.
He is.
Yes.
Speaking of ladies, Stirling.
We have one in the studio. First on Triple J, an accomplished woman. Her name is Yvonne Allen. She's a professional matchmaker since 1976. She is a psychologist, a futurist, an author and a commentator. And she joins us now to speak about, amongst other things, Generation Y and the dating game. Good evening, Yvonne.
Good evening, Stirling and Tom.
Yvonne, can I just kick it off by saying I was in Harrow, Western Victoria this weekend for Butte Blokes, which is some mates of mine up regional Australia find it hard to meet women. A lot of girls head down to the city, do your courses, get involved in your tofu eating, hippie sort of green activities, and don't come back to the country. Is that a problem, do you think, for country blokes, young nationals like myself in the country to meet girls?
It is. However, I've just partnered a guy who's living on a family property, has been in the family for 140 years, and
yes.
took him to ad and screened for applicants. But it is the truth, because if women have ambition and want to work in professions or careers, it can be difficult in the bush. But of course, there are a lot of country guys who live near a decent-sized town. And there are women who are attracted to the idea of life in the bush.
Yes. Yeah. On that, do women need to restrain their selfish instinct to have a career? Should they pull back their expectations of life and content themselves with happy hearth, happy home, child rearing, and making sure that their husband is the breadwinner, thereby enriching the whole of society?
Well, it's strange for me, being somebody who started a business in 1976 against all odds,
yes.
To be saying...
Thankfully, a Liberal government was in power who would have helped you enormously.
Oh, I don't know that anyone helped me very much, but I didn't blame it on being a woman.
I think John Howard Treasurer did.
Yes.
Maybe your memory is failing you.
Yes, I guess I might have early Alzheimer's.
Yes.
But look, I'm in some ways going to agree with you, not because I think women should not forge ahead, but often we are doing it at the expense of our needs as a woman. I think in the Anglo-Saxon world, we've taken on a Maggie Thatcher model. Do it as if a guy and do it better than him. And I now understand some of the biological problems going on. A lot of women are functioning on testosterone, which actually doesn't reduce stress. And it's no wonder that men then don't get drawn to them, because they're not revealing the feminine.
Yes.
Do you find, Yvonne, that, that Gen Y, with your Facebooks and your Twitters and your poking and your tweeting and all that stuff, finding it difficult to partner up?
I think part of the problem is that they think they have so many friends, but their friends are all people on a screen. And too many people are these days lacking the interpersonal skills of being known and knowing other people.
Yes.
And I remember when my daughter first went onto Facebook, she came back to me, "Mum, I've got over 200 friends." I said, "Who are they?" She said, "Well, I don't know."
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said.
That's why I love the Kentucky tour, Sterling.
Yes.
It's a good bonding experience.
Yes, so of
a few beers as well.
certain socio-economic group. How important is class to dating? Are you worried that we will see people dating outside their class?
I'm not worried at all about class or us, but I am worried about the fact that for a lot of women, they've achieved a great deal that actually puts them in a position when it's difficult for them to partner, because men were traditionally wired, and they're still wired, to be the protectors, providers.
Yes.
We've got to, as women, let know the men in our lives that we need them. And for a lot of guys, they'll look at a very successful woman and say, well, why would she need me?
I find, in the country, Yvonne, with, women are sort of saying to me, I want to meet a bloke who can change a tyre. I want to meet a bloke who can, delouse a lamb. I want to meet a bloke who spends less time on his hair than I do.
Yes.
I mean, do you think that, that with the sort of whole metrosexual movement in the inner city with the tofu eating, bicycle riding movement, that there is a lack of actual masculinity in some blokes?
I'd leave out the bike riding, because I think lots of bike riders are very masculine.
What about voting green? Voting green.
But can I say to you, Tom, that I think the truth is that women are drawn to the masculine. And then they wonder why I say, well, men are drawn to the feminine. Yes, poor old snags got a bad time, because whilst they were delightful to be with, they're not hairy women. And men are men, and God bless that. And I think it's about time we got back to really appreciating the masculine. That doesn't mean he has to be the material provider. On my blog site, I've written a blog saying, has Julia Gillard got it right?
Wow.
No, not on anything, not on anything. I will say, Yvonne Allen, though, professional matchmaker since 1976, this is a joyful enunciation of conservative values that we're hearing for the first time on Triple J in a long time. I will ask you this, though, as a matchmaker, and this certainly appeals to a lot. This question, it goes to the very heart of many Triple J listeners. Should the very ugly resign themselves to a life of piety?
No.
Why?
And what's ugliness mean?
Well, those who are simply unmatchable, those who seem to predominate at a Spencer Tunick photography session.
Some of the most impossible people in terms of a relationship are physically very attractive.
Yes.
I think one of the issues in today's society is the model that we have for our kids, and I have a 20-year-old daughter. It's out there that you aspire to the lives of the stars. And the relationships of the stars are written up in all the women's mags. And so many of them are such disasters.
Yes.
The values that we have out there are really of concern. We don't use photos in our work at Yvonne Allen, and we've had many people marry who've said they wouldn't have chosen each other from a stack of photos. And, this is a really sad thing. Now, I am not what you'd call a conservative. I, however, think the reality is there are some things that we really need to value in ourselves and in each other, and they're very basic, and they're not linked to any political party or particular worldview. It's getting back to basics, humans beings together, building bridges of understanding that respect our differences as men and women, because it's crazy for women to be as if a man and then say they want a man.
Just getting back, how do you think Gillard's got it right? I mean, Yvonne, Tim's, kind of your hairdressing types, he's more likely to put tips in your hair than, sort of change
than food on the table.
Tom, why I say that is for a woman who has a very demanding job, to look for a man who is similarly so is often looking in the wrong direction. Firstly, he's not likely to be looking for her. He's not wanting to have to make a time to see his wife or continually pick her up from airports, especially if he's working long hours and also travelling a lot. For a woman to have a man who's there to support her, and I'm not meaning materially, I would say Julia says she needs Tim. She needs the love and support and availability that he provides her.
I think she needs some votes as well.
Yes.
Yeah, but if she doesn't get the votes, she's also still got a relationship. And that's something we've really got to put in perspective.
Yvonne, for the Triple J listener who's not currently under the influence of either marijuana or alcohol, what advice would you give them as they hit the dating scene?
I wouldn't hit it while you're taking marijuana.
Yes.
or you're grogged out of your mind, because, in fact, that's a very hard space to build a good relationship from. Mind you, I don't... I really get why guys get half full or more when they go to a gaggle of gals to try and strike up a conversation.
But basically
because they're
life, everyone.
Well, they're likely to be told,
Yeah, a few settlers.
get off.
Yes.
And yet in my day it was meant to be a compliment if a man asked you to dance or spoke to you or whatever. And I don't know how many chicken dinners I sort of choked on because I thought it was impolite to say no.
Yes.
But, there is something that's going with the girls of today. They don't realise that if they want to attract a man for something more than a one-nighter, and let's face it, sex is sex for a guy, unless it's sex with a woman he really wants to be with, they're really going to find themselves often alone. And I really fear for a lot of women. We're predicting from census statistics in the past that by 2020, up to 25% of households in Australia could be occupied by women on their own. Now, this is a seismic shift in our social profile. Hugh Mackay, social commentator, said a couple of years ago, what's happening to the profile of our society as such is equivalent to the impact of climate change on our environment.
Yes, well, we can tell you there's a woman occupying the lodge at the moment, and it's been disastrous.
Can I ask Yvonne? Nightclubs. I find it very difficult as a country guy. Come down to the nightclubs. There's very loud music. Obviously, drug-induced Euro DJs. I'm a sort of guy who likes going to the Union Hotel in Eden Hope, Western Victoria, but it's a sausage sizzle there. It's all blokes. How do I? Get it? How do I meet girls, outside of the sort of the nightclub scene?
Do you have interest in anything other than, the footy? Mind you, lots of girls go to the footy.
Yeah.
But often it's a great idea to take up an interest that actually also has both sexes involved, so you can be enjoying yourself, regardless of whether you meet the one.
Yeah.
Yes. But I do.
So drinking and footy, you'd say, expand my interests.
And also go
pig shooting.
Choose.
Pigging?
No, I don't think it's the sort of thing you want to take a date on either.
Should we seek advice from our parents, who may or may not point out anyone fetching in the choir of one's Anglican church who they would deem appropriate to bring into the family should their father be a partner in a senior accounting firm?
Well, I do think traditionally the churches and the associated community groups. I was brought up a Catholic, and I belonged to the CYO and went to CYO dances.
Oh,
these things were ways to actually get to know each other. We've got to find ways in the community of bringing young people together. I think one of the problems in England right now with youngsters is that a lot of the local footy clubs and so on and so forth have all disappeared, and the reality is it's the public service that's now actually responsible for management of what really used to be community stuff.
Yes. Well, the government should butt out.
Exactly.
Get out of the bedroom.
Yvonne, thank you very much for joining us. Very wise words. You can check out, you've got a blog, Yvonne Allen blog, thefutureofrelationships.com.
Yes, thefutureofrelationships.com. Only been going a couple of months, but I'd love to have a lot of people giving their comments and views there, because that is the way to start the grassroots, really taking ownership of their lives and realising the values that matter to them.
Yes, you hear a Catholic there talking about dating and roots.
Triple J.
'Twas ever thus.
Restoring the Balance Re-Education Tutorial number 77. Fairfax Press.
The Fairfax Press publishes the Melbourne Age and the Sydney Morning Herald newspapers. Despite its claims for impartiality, Fairfax nurses an irrational and outrageous hatred of the coalition. Fairfax papers have enthusiastically called for the return of child slavery and the public execution of the elderly. The Age and Sydney Morning Herald are printed on paper specially designed to be reused as rolly paper for marijuana cigarettes. If you wish to send a letter to the editor of a Fairfax paper, send it care of your local heroin injecting room.
Restoring the Balance.
Increase defence spending.
Restoring the Balance on Triple J. 2 hours of unimpeded conservative coverage of current events. You're with Tom Thomlinson, myself, Stirling Addison. The music you unfortunately sat through to get to inspired conservative commentary was Alex Metric and Steve Angelo. Open your eyes, that's what you're doing, and your ears to something called The Truth.
And now it's time for the Restoring the Balance What's On Guide.
This is a segment where we give some conservative youths some stuff to do over the upcoming weeks. It's not getting on your beer bongs or going to hippie festivals. Let me just promote this event. It's at the Bonnelbow Showgrounds in New South Wales, Stirling. I think this will be very exciting. It's the Upper Clarence Weed Expo, and that's not weed as in, the sort of joints that are being rolled by a lot of people listening now. It's actual weeds. And Jim Wilmot from Far North Coast Weeds, who's a great bloke, and Neil Rossington from who's a Tenterfield Weeds officer, are giving a great speech. Looking at our biggest weed threats, Stirling, as you would know, we've struggled long and hard against the giant rat's tail weed and the green cestrum weed. Yes. And so we're going to be looking at smart approaches and properties and catchments and looking at new weed threats and who we can go to for help. So the Weed Expo, get along. So quite a party afterwards as well.
Yes. I'm unfortunately caught short without my diary, Tom. I'll have to get onto my secretary when I get to work on Monday morning to diarise that.
The Upper Clarence Weed Expo.
Post haste, I will tell her. Also, if you are at a loss for something to do, why not join the Anglican Youth Alliance in helping us fill out petitions? We're currently petitioning the State Road Authority, in particular their Adopt a Highway project, and we're attempting to prevent gays and lesbians from adopting sections of roadway. This will happen.
Is that really going to happen?
Yes, it will.
So we're going to have Mardi Gras Lane, are we?
They are attempting to adopt stretches of highway and inculcate them to the gay and lesbian lifestyle. This will not happen on our watch. We've seen Penny Wong and her partner having a baby at a stroke, creating two single mothers. We're not going to let that happen to beloved stretches of bitumen and vital infrastructure.
That sounds like a good cause, Stirling. Can I say, speaking of live broadcasts, or live radio, in Goondiwindi, on August 24, 7 to 9 p.m, there's a live broadcast. It's called What is the Future of Wheat? It's a live panel discussion. You can go along and see it live. Of course, it will be broadcast across the country.
Yes.
What is the future of wheat?
Yes.
Arrive half an hour before the official broadcast, and there's a local reception afterwards with refreshments and networking.
Wheat-based refreshments, I hope.
It is. Wheat beer.
Grass.
Yes, exactly. The future of wheat. We had a huge rating to the last broadcast. We had one on chestnut blight on oak trees in northeastern Victoria.
Yes, a rather dystopic snapshot of the future of wheat.
Exactly. So if you're interested in wheat and its future, and you love a live panel discussion, you can chuck in a few questions, a few experts. That's you can go and see that on August 24, Stirling.
Yes. Factor in, of course, an extra 20 minutes for the standing ovations that will no doubt occur.
Every wheat expert in the West Mallee will be there, mate.
Yes, imagine if a bomb went off. If you would like to raise some money for a very good cause and at the same time ensure that your evening's entertainment is locked in, as it said, please go to the All Saints Anglican Church Woollahra video sale. That is next weekend. You will get videos such as the Choral Evensong in Thanksgiving from the 50th anniversary of the coronation and the one in honour of service groups of the community. The preacher, for the first time ever, caught on footage, is the very Reverend Peter Wall, Dean of Niagara. Need I say more?
Do they have like old Terminator videos or some Schwarzenegger?
No, these are nothing but edifying spectacles of worship.
So that's what you whack on at your place, is it, Stirling? You go to a DVD night and you see songs of praise.
Well, these in this case, these are videos.
Does Penny come along to those nights? Did your girlfriend get into that?
She does work on those nights with a Brazilian trainer in her shoe store. Business, she tells me, is very slow. She puts in very long hours and often comes home physically exhausted from the exertion of selling shoes. to virtually no one.
Okay, well, look, you can get onto our What's On segment if you've got anything you'd like to promote. Next week we do have a Facebook page. You can that's Restoring the Balance. You can go to our website, triplej.net.au/restoring_the_balance, or you can tweet us directly at Stirling Addison or at Tomlinson Tom. This is Triple J.
Restoring the Balance with Stirling and Thomas.
Wresting the ABC from the clutches of communists and Catholics.
This is Triple J, Restoring the Balance with myself, young National Tom Thomlinson, and young Liberal Stirling Addison. 2 hours of Conservative comment and discussion here on the network. Almost time for us to go, but before we do...
Remember in our prayers.
Yes. I beseech you, all Triple J listeners who believe in the one merciful and loving Christian God, there must be some. They must exist.
Well, apparently on the census they do, but I think most Triple J listeners put down Jedi.
Yes.
From what I
which
taking
is
religion as a joke.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Well, it's not a joke. We look at the London riots and we look at what the absence of religion can turn young people into. Now, so I beseech you on this, the Lord's Day, to give pause and thanks to an ever-loving Christian God, and we offer up to Him causes and issues which the good Lord may Himself resolve. I'm speaking in particular of the tenuous financial position of the Liberal Party.
Well, what are we talking?
It is completely
really
counterintuitive that the government of business should itself be facing impecunity. This is a situation which we must not tolerate.
So we should pray for what?
Funds.
Well, why aren't they getting funds, Stirling? I mean, the National Party, judging by the amount of cans that were consumed in our last catch-up, we're doing pretty well, mate.
Well, because unlike
the
Greens, we refuse to sell heroin to school children. This is why the Liberal Party has no money.
Fair enough.
And so I would ask all good Triple J listeners to remember in their prayers the finances of the Liberal Party, and I would ask them to beseech the kind and heavenly Father above to create a miracle such that Alan Stockdale goes to the bank, checks the account tomorrow, and suddenly the account is overflowing with gold.
Why not, mate, just ask people listening to donate to them?
That's a very good idea. We should set something up on the website.
We will. Donate to the Libs and the Nats while you're at it. Can I just, in our prayers, Stirling, just ask everyone to consider Victoria's Western District's canola farmers who have got a real problem with juvenile slugs at the moment. The big ones are fine, all right, they can bait those, but it's they've had a very wet season, the juvenile slugs, and we're talking just out of the womb here, absolutely destroying their crops. And I've spoken to them about the slug problem at length, and I know we were trying to get a slug expert on and talk Western District canola slugs.
We were thwarted in that endeavour,
and you said we'd run out of time.
Yes, it was terrible.
Look, so if you fall to your knees... think about juvenile slugs. Think about the Western District's canola farmers there, the problems that they're facing. Hopefully, it's an issue that Triple J could probably do a special on next week.
Yes,
all right. If you're listening, juvenile slugs.
Yes, if you were to order the priorities as you pray, if you could put Liberal Party finances at the top of the list, and almost as an afterthought, beseech the Lord to look after the kind canola farmers of the Western Districts.
That's it from us at Restoring the Balance. We're being wound up so you can relight your bongs, you can listen to your Cannibal Corpses or whatever sort of heavy metal's probably going to be played, start banging your head. We're out. Hopefully we'll be back next week if the ABC doesn't intervene. Always you can contact us with any kind of comment or thought. You can go to triplej.net.au/restoring_the_balance. We're on Facebook as well.
Yes.
Or tweet us at Stirling Allison or at Tomlinson Tom.
Yes. The internet brought to you by private enterprise.
Restoring the Balance is proudly brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Communications, the Perth Loyal Orange Battle of the Boyne Recreation Society, the Royal Bowral Racing Stud, the Charleville Turkey Fanciers Association, and the Port Hedland Australians for Australia think tank.